Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is Ashquest, and if you've been on the channel for a while, then you understand the type of content that I make. Generally, we adventure through past fantasy lands of nostalgia. We do so at measured paces, but we are critical of every step we take. At times, it is the contemporary that we present and judge, but these are never far from having the DNA of their ancestors embedded deeply within their systems and or their aesthetic. There's an unspoken reverence to the old, a respect that almost never wavers. We stand as the old guard, admiring worlds both presented as past and future, worlds of a bygone era. Sometimes these worlds are fairly bleak, but the reverence remains. And yet I wonder, what happens if we were to toss that reverence aside? What if we need something a little different? Okay, not that. Or I don't know, maybe that. Let me know if you want to see more anime waifu in your dungeon crawlers. Or if that's heresy. This is Dungeon Degenerates, a game by Goblinko. Goblinko? It's fun either way. It's like Goblin Company, or it could be Goblinko. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Goblinko. Let's get to this. Let's start that over, shall we? This is Dungeon Degenerates from Goblinko. There was a reason I wanted to start that up. This is Dungeon Degenerates, Hand of Doom from Goblinko. And as a self-proclaimed, sometimes degenerate, I knew that this game would be worth studying. It would be worth adding to my research list. This copy of game was sent to me from Goblinko, for which I am very grateful. Thank you, Goblinko, for your very kind contribution to the channel. Know that although this was sent to me for free, it is not something that I'm going to give any sort of mercy to. No quarter for Dungeon Degenerates just because it was a gift. Dungeon Degenerate trademark. However, having said that, I've never heard an unkind word about Dungeon Degenerates. Everybody who has played it in my vicinity has only had good things to say about it. So this is evidently dungeon crawling or some form of it done right. And I say some form of it because we're not going through a dungeon as it were in the traditional sense. This seems like it's going to be much more of a quest-taking type game, but I say this completely ignorant as to what is actually in the game's content. We have some prefacing here to read, which I'm sure the creator would like to be known to all potential consumers. To the Westreich, an empire in decline. I can't wait to say all of these words that my auto editor is going to basically take out because they're not English and it just thinks that I'm probably coughing or something. An empire in decline, where survival is an adventure unto itself. Once the pinnacle of human civilization, it now teeters on the brink of total doom. Doom in all caps. Collapsing into corruption, decadence, decay, and madness. Evil wizards pervert the very fabric of nature, bringing gibbering madness from beyond, screaming into absolution, and an endless menagerie of monsters fight for domination. In chaos, there is opportunity. The fecund stench of the rotten realm of the Westreich beckons as the shadowy necromancer's hand of doom points its yellowed fingernail and projects its diabolical decree on the cursed land. Having escaped from the moldy dungeons of Brotelberg, a handful of degenerate adventurers must use wits and weapons to find their fortune in the monster and madness-infested borderlands. Fate decided by the luck of the draw and the roll of the dice. Dungeon Degenerates Hand of Doom is a cooperative dark fantasy adventure board game for 1 to 4 players who assume the role of escaped convicts on the run from the law and struggling to survive in a rotting realm full of danger and deadly peril. And yes, you did see that. That is a sex dwarf. That is a sex dwarf. Irreverence has entered the building. Reverence has left out the back door. And there will be other references to the back door. I can only expect / hope as we get into the components that make up Dungeon Degenerates. Choose from 20 missions or string them together in a dynamic narrative campaign that unfolds based on your choices during play. An open sandbox feel and wide range of choices provide extreme replayability as you fight for your life against over 150 unique illustrated monsters and across 4 distinct regions threatened by the evil influence of the Hand of Doom. Now, I've made some less than savory references, but it is worth noting that this is for ages 10+. It has a medium difficulty. It's not suitable for squares, which I like, and I don't know if that's maybe also a reference saying it's not a grid square system, but that's the meaning that I'm choosing, the secondary meaning that I'm choosing to take from it. 1 to 4 players, a session could take between 2 to 4 hours, and it was shared with me that a recent session was around 3 hours. I have to imagine if you are going to play this solo that it's going to be on the lower end, but you might be quadruple handing the Dungeoneers, as it were, so to speak. Boy, the disclaimers don't make that sound any better. Align yourself with one of the many factions vying for power over the borderlands, or strike out on your own and seek your fortune in the dangerous wilderness. Will you hunt down heretics on behalf of the Inquisition, or join the ranks of the Necro Coven and enact arcane rituals to undermine the hypocritical Holy Order? Will you scout trade routes through the barren wasteland on behalf of the guildsmen of Pigskin Port, or wage a shadow war with sabotage and poison against the goblin hordes? Will you save the struggling and scattered towns of the borderlands from the Necromancer's curse, or will you call forth the hand of doom and bring an end to the wretched Werestrike once and for all? Pick up a sword and join the adventure. We will. Now that we're done reading that probably overly long back of box text, there's something that I want to point out here, and this is not going to be an opinion that's friendly for audience. This art style, I can't bring myself to break my language barrier. I need to admit something to you. I have my days. I will cuss like a sailor. I just can't bring myself to do it on the channel. But I have described this box art as effing beautiful, and the reason is I just really, really love this aesthetic. It's really freaking gorgeous, man. I mean, there is such a deliberate, bold, confident style. It's present absolutely every square inch of the box and every component inside. The simple art style with the thick lines reminds me a lot of Axebane. This is like if Axebane or Grey Gnome Games took a hit of acid and made a board game. Inside we have, I pre-bagged some of the tokens. I'll go through some of that footage now while I talk about my freaking hatred of tokens. A lot of tokens can feel like there's going to be a lot of steps to management for me. So if that's not what the tokens are all about, then that's great. There are also a lot of costs associated with tokens that I think that could be mitigated if a creator decides to use a different method other than using tokens to track things like wounds or gold, things like that. It can be pretty immersive if you don't already have a crap load of tokens going on. But this game has over 300 of them, so that's definitely going to be something that worries me a bit as I get into my learn to play phase of the game. I also want to point out that the numbered tokens, while it's nice that they're clear, they're easy to read, they really missed an opportunity to share more of that bold style on them. I guess that they thought they would be sacrificing the easy accessibility, the readability of the tokens if they had any sort of flavor to them whatsoever, but I disagree. I think that these are extremely boring tokens. I went through and looked up the best way to store everything back, and the best answers I could get, the most frequent ones were that people are using trays, and I don't want to use a tray. I don't plan on stuffing this box full of its expansions. That may change, but at least for now, it's not something that I think is absolutely necessary. There's only enough room in this box to store all the components because I was able to throw away the layers and layers of boards that had the tokens in them, and I think there should have been more dedicated storage for stuff like that. I realize it would have been very difficult to do without shortening the overall tray, but then you would have had deliberate room for the expansions. Because I know some people like to superbox. I'm one of them, but it really does depend on the game. I do not want to invest in a 3D printer just to print storage solutions for games. The game creators really got to figure that out for themselves, and it needs to be something that's a native feature to the game. We don't have any sort of egregious flaws with that here. It's not like it's Orc Quest where you have two giant boxes and you have to open both of them to play the game. That's just ridiculous. You can get everything back into the box pretty easily, but your trays here, they don't hold all of the tokens. So that's why I had to look things up. I'm like, how am I supposed to utilize the storage that's here? And it's because once you put everything back in, after removing the sheets of tokens, you have a lot more vertical room and you can throw your tokens in that way. Don't love it. It is a very, very minor complaint. It doesn't even matter. And I don't want it to overshadow anything else in this video, so we're going to disregard that now. Going forward, we got some lovely stickers from Goblinko. And I do love the style very, very much. It reminds me of something I saw in my childhood, something that was supposed to be like gross art, but it was just done in this style, and it wasn't particularly gross because of the art. I don't remember if it was like Mad Balls, Mad Magazine, Ed Hardy's Rat Fink to a degree. There was one particular Mad Magazine illustrator that had a very similar style that may have informed this, maybe indirectly. Am I thinking of Mad with that one, or is that cracked? Beautiful, very limited color palette that I have described as bold and confident and consistent. We have two sheets that remind us of the combat round, large counters, advancing the doom track, all of our really quick and easy and accessible rules. I think going with this limited color palette makes everything super visible, just hyper visible. Your eye will immediately travel to where it needs to go once you are used to kind of where things are placed on the reference sheets here. Oh, but I did want to show you the reference sheets in their entirety. We have the sections named the combat round, actions in combat, combat dice. We even have room for an illustration here, which is great because it breaks up the monotony of rules and reference. The defense roll, the attack roll. The defense roll seems to be an agility test, while the attack roll seems to be an attribute test indicated by the item or skill that you are using. And the roll results will depend on your stance. Your stance can either be an assault stance or a guard stance. We have defense dice, attack dice, and the power die. They are 3 different colors of D6 included here with the game. They are not even D14 size. I think this is a D14. 14 mil. I think these are 12. They could be 8, maybe, actually. Yeah, these could be, I think, 8 mil. They're very small. We have 4 stands because the heroes in this game are represented by standees. And you might think, nope, I only do miniatures. But the standees really communicate the art and the aesthetic in a way that the miniatures never could. I will say that there is a miniatures option. Where were they? Are they in the back of the missions book? They are in the back, under the appendix. These are some of the miniatures that you can get. They are available and they can be used as substitutes for the counters and standees. I think that that's really neat. Really good move to make them optional for people who are miniature purists, but just lower the overall cost of the game because they're not necessary to have, even if they do look really cool. You can paint them up how you wish. You can paint them to look like their standee counterparts, and then I think if you do that accurately, then you can mimic the flavor that these standees provide. There are only 4 stands though, because it's a 1 to 4 player game. So 4 of these guys will get stands in your session. The other ones will be left behind. Speaking of heroes, I wanted to show you the hero boards. We have the following types of heroes in Dungeon Degenerates. This is the Vermin Hunter. Each one of these hero boards has the anatomy of the name of the hero, the class, human, hunter, rogue, the items, gas bomb and rat spike in this case, the skill, combat reflexes in this case. Every hero has this extra rule. They're all different. It depends on the hero. Make an MRL test when you win a fight if you destroyed a swarm or vermin, and if you pass, gain 1 luck. For the next hero, it's gain 1 luck when you pass an explore test with doubles while you are outside. Where the hell is the hero board reference? What is going on? Is it not in here? There you are. Good lord. Oh, it doesn't really talk about the hero board. What am I missing? The very first page of the book has got this vampire entertainer. Hey darling, what is that mouse hole hiding? Doesn't really have like an explanation of the character sheets. Well, it's fine. I really just wanted all of the terms here because these were not intuitive to me, but now I see that they are morale and perception. So you have agility, constitution, magic, morale, perception, and strength. These are your core attributes. You have spaces indicating fight round, end of fight, and recovery, upon which you will place tokens. You have stance tokens. You'll place 1 combat stance and 1 map stance counter each and place them on your character sheet. There are extra small tokens. I've bagged these things up pretty sporadically, but we've got our extra small tokens here, and these will go on the spaces that have the picture for that particular type of token, and they'll go on this number track. And obviously you'll take the skill and loot cards indicated on the sheet because we have lots of beautifully illustrated cards. So again, the Vermin Hunter, every character sheet has got an opposite side that gives you the suggested skills and the suggested weaknesses for the character, as well as the crime for which they are wanted, why this is a fugitive, and the homeland for this character, which may or may not come into play as you're playing, as well as the lore. We have a lot of immersive lore written out for each of the characters. Our Bog Conjurer looked like if Peter Steele was a zombie. Human, Warlock, Wild, Spirit Guide, and Totem Stick. Sixth Sense. And just name out the basic attributes that come with each of these heroes so you can kind of get an idea of what sort of class archetype to which they belong. The Blood Sport Brawler, Human Fighter Performer, Spiked Gauntlet and Warpaint, Foe, Killer, the Void Witch, Human Warlock Wizard, Sacrificial Dagger and Scroll of Ancient Gibberish, Void Walker, the Witch Smeller, Class Human Hunter Puritan, weighted pistol, and witch smeller's nose. That is a prop, not the actual witch smeller's nose. Otherwise, I would say the silhouette, the stance, basically everything about it, Marilyn Manson. Skill, intimidate. Marilyn Manson circa 1996. Corpse burner, class human, Puritan, rogue, death mask, and grave shovel. Skill, burly. The mercenary alchemist, probably one of the least creative names you could have come up for with this guy. Mercenary alchemist does make sense. Is that a bottle in your pants? Human, militant, flash, and light pistol. Skill, alchemy. Hinterlander. Class, human, hunter, wild, items, hunting bow, and a trail ration. Skill, fieldcraft. Seriously, this one couldn't have been like, I don't know, potion pusher? Drug dealer? No, that doesn't work. We have our rule book. I want to show you the art on all this stuff. Kind of want to take my time, but can't take too much time. The stippling, oh man. The rule book is 38 pages cover to cover, but, well, that was an incorrect thing to say. Page 1 is here, page 37 is here, then it's the end cover. And it is laid out with these columns. Text is very easy to read, easy to parse. We have a lot of icons we'll have to learn and memorize. The setup looks to be pretty simple. It is going to take up some table space, but there is some tip and hint in here for helping you out if you are not dealing with as much table. Core mechanics, status conditions. So those tracks on the bottom of our character sheets, that's where the status conditions go. Game turns, map action phases, large counters, danger phase, encounter phase, monsters, resolving a fight. What did I just see? Goblin egg? Fighting fortress. Doom. Doom is an entire section. Void gates and the maze, loot and items, playing a campaign, Dungeon Degenerates campaign record sheet, adventurer record sheet. We have a couple of copies of those. And an appendix. This allows you to join a game in progress. When a player shows up late, or if an adventurer dies early in the game, you may decide to create a new adventurer and introduce them into the game at the start of any turn. Set up their standing in any space with an adventurer or in any town. If you choose a new adventurer whose starting items or skills have already been claimed, you must do without them, but you gain B or XP equal to the cost of that item or skill, respectively. If a starting item is in the discard pile, you may take that card from the discard pile. You can also adjust difficulty. Rules is written right here. We have some tactical tips. These are really necessary and they're overlooked in a lot of games, I think, because there is going to be a meta with a lot of games. And if the meta is kind of considered while the design phase of the game is still going on, they can kind of work that into the upfront in your face. Here's how you even play. But we have some very, very helpful tips here. You can tell by how they're worded. Recovery skills will help you travel faster with fewer rests, mend wounds, fieldcraft, etc. Trade items with your party. Don't forget, you can usually run away. Pay attention to your unique luck generating ability and generate as much as possible. You will need it. There are more tips, but I just wanted to show you the rulebook because it's really nicely laid out and I appreciate that. I've got something here, a flyer basically advertising Dungeon Degenerates. I don't know if this was thrown into my box because the game was sent to me as a promo, or if this is with everybody's copy. We already have Dungeon Degenerates after all. Dungeon, punk, gang, create hell and get away with it. As you were, I was. As I am, you will be. The barrier between friend and foe is thin at certain times of the day. There are only us? Yes, we're the 1% who don't fit and don't care. I'll show you the quest book in a second. First, I want to show you the lovely board upon which all of your degenerative adventures will take place. It's a quad-fold board, so the game is able to fit into a standard size box, 10 by 10, one of many standards really. So again, looking at this limited color palette of I think 8, could be 16, maybe they're not really keeping count. You can see there are a lot of default, I think, danger levels is what those tokens represent on the board. We have a lot of different regions, and within each region, we have several locations. These have their own official terms, their own classification in this game. I'm just kind of using generics until I get to that point. We have trackers built onto the board, which makes sense when we are talking about a board that has all of these numbers that are ready to start out a new campaign plastered all over the place. Pigskin Fort, the Watchtower, Brutilberg, Crossroads, Fields, the Fields, East Bridge, the Graveyard, the Catacombs, the Holy Order, Hunt Lodge, Hag's Fort, Witchwood, Sunken Village. I like it. I like it a lot. It's the promise of an adventure unlike any you've ever had. This shall be the beautiful backdrop for the remainder of this presentation. And that's all we're really doing today. We're just first reactions, everything out of the box. Doing this in a bit of an unplanned, unorthodox way. Taking everything out, just looking over, combing over every little piece. I'm going to put that off to the side. And I'm going to show you the missions book. I will tell you this will be one of those games that I don't talk about or present in a gameplay fashion until I'm pretty confident I've got the gameplay aspect down, because there seems to be a lot to it. I'm not going to say too much. I'm sure it's the amount that seems daunting at first, but once you get into a routine and you're playing, then it just is smooth as butter. Because again, I've only heard good things about this. I've not had complaints heard or shared by anybody, at least in my circles, where this was too difficult. It's usually shared that it's very fun. I really like the built-in rules for joining an adventure in progress. It doesn't leave anybody out. So getting back to the quest book, we have our table of contents, introduction. Alles hat ein Ende, nur die Wurst hat zwei. This mentions, in the world, the well-guarded aristocracy of Brettelberg grows more corrupt and decadent with each passing year, while those zealous followers of the holy order that remain true to their Puritan code only become more violent and sadistic. The peasants of the lowlands meet in secret, forming witch cults and rebel enclaves, which, by the way, if you are already sold on kind of this concept and this world, it's important that you know that this IP, this creator, has a role-playing game version of this universe that is currently followable. So I'll make sure I put a link in the description below for that. The Lowlands, I believe it's called. It's about time too. This game came out in 2018, which I can't believe it came out that long ago. I honestly thought it was a lot more recent. We have 20 missions in this book, and I should share that there are several expansions to this. I believe a lot of them are very small box expansions, but they have a lot of content and more ways to play, which is generally how expansions work. But if I'm not mistaken, the content of all the expansions should actually just fit in the main box with it. I want to say there's blister packs, but I might be thinking of a different game. Ash, why don't you Google it or go to Goblinko's store and just look? Well, I will. Fine, you're right. Oh my god, I got to talk about this capture section. If you are defeated by or surrender to the law at any point during a campaign mission, you are captured by your assailants. Any adventurer who has already been captured is executed on the spot and killed, while the others are merely clasped in chains. Any adventurers who were not captured may choose to join their captured comrades and turn themselves in, or join them once they have escaped capture, as described in the next mission setup. Alternatively, adventurers who were not captured may choose to continue their mission and abandon those captured. You may introduce replacements if you wish. At the end of a mission in which any adventurers were captured, the captors soon reveal themselves as members of the secret brotherhood of imperial conspirators who plot against the emperor and fight a clandestine war to return the Wirreich to its former glory. They offer you a chance to save your neck by working as their agent. You may accept your captor's offer and hope to win a pardon by bringing death for hire as a servant of the imperial conspirators, or refuse and try to make an escape from Brettelberg before you are tortured and executed without mercy. Escape from Brettelberg is mission 9, so it looks like that might be something that's replayable. Correct me if I'm wrong. Death for hire is actually also a mission. This is mission number 6. You can begin a campaign with the On the Run mission, which is mission 1. And when that's completed, its mission path section will indicate which mission to attempt next. When you start a new campaign, remove the following cards from their decks. They are only used when a mission calls for them to be added to the mission deck. The Crown of Cruelty, the Doombringer Horn, and the Dread Saint. These are epic loots and an epic monster. Enough of that. Let's move on to the presentation of the quests. And here they are. This is going to be spoilers for 2 of these quests, On the Run and Loot and Pillage, as we look at the quest structure and kind of see how these are laid out. So it looks like we get our flavor text first that introduces the quest. Interestingly enough, right here in the flavor text, you are offered a choice. So it's not altogether flavor text. There's actually some gameplay here. You can get an offer from the jailer. He has found something valuable that he needs to keep hidden from his cruel and fanatical commander, the High Magistrate. He's unable to leave his post. He offers you freedom if you'll retrieve and deliver a package to his crooked cousin in Pigskin Port. You can accept this offer or refuse him and plot an escape on your own terms. If you refuse his offer, you're going to skip this mission and continue on to the next one. So essentially 2 different ways to completely start this campaign. but you'll always start it with this choice here present in the first mission. You have your setup rules, setting the bounty level at 3, placing the party at Bruttelberg, which is in the western region of the map right here. We have 3 icons that represent traits that are of Bruttelberg, and it looks as though we have the details of the journey. Yeah, we have icons that indicate instructions basically that we have to follow. The setup section indicates what cards are placed in the mission deck and if counters are placed on the board. A key means place a random clue face down on the space. A key N, place the clue counter with the value N face up on the space. That makes sense. I like that. That's easy. A lock means place the indicated card in the mission deck. And these 4 symbols mean to place the corresponding map trait counter on the indicated space. For example, Ghost Gate means place a fungus counter at Ghost Gate. And then Skull means place the corresponding epic monster counter on the indicated space and add that epic monster's card to the mission deck. For example, Knife Wraith at Witch Hill means place the Knife Wraith counter at Witch Hill. So the setup here is to place the Soothsayer's Head and Fungal Parasite loot cards into the mission deck, place the Crossroads Clue 6, Clue number 6 at Crossroads, Clue number 1 at Pigskin Port, Clue 2 at Gushfish Ford, and Clue 3 at Stone Circle. And then the last 2 map trait counters get placed. This kind of map trait counter to North Bridge, and this kind on each path and road adjacent to Witch Hill. So yeah, basically quest taking. You're playing through a series of encounters and events as you traverse the map. The map traversal is kind of sandboxy, but you are given a very specific path in order to complete your mission. And of course, there's going to be stuff like combat here. We've only read through the setup, so the objective is you may complete this mission when all adventurers rest together as a party at Clue 1, 2, or 3, with or without the Soothsayer's Head. If you find the Soothsayer's Head, there's an additional section for mechanics here, and what happens if you lose it. Their reward, each adventurer gains 1 luck. Remove all counters that were placed during setup and reduce the bounty level. You may deliver the Soothsayer's Head to the Jailer's Cousin by discarding it if you are at Pigskin Port. If you can use the Soothsayer's Head, if you meet its requirements, you can deliver him to his hometown at the Stone Circle. Loving all this. If you deliver it to the village elders at Gutfish Ford, keep the head. And these things are, I am certain, explained during the unfolding of the quest as you are playing. You probably come across the subtext, pretext, context for all 3 of these outcomes when you have these mission cards drawn in the deck, and that's why you have those added in there. 3 outcomes to this. You know of the one, and as you are playing, you are made aware of 2 others. So you have branching paths. I really like that idea. The mission path. Your next mission is determined by where you ended up and whether or not you delivered the Soothsayer's Head to anyone. There are several outcomes to this. It's not just a choose your own adventure. It's which path did you take and what were the circumstances that led you to the end. So for Fungal Parasite, you will go to Visions at the Peak. Deliver the head. You can continue on to Death for Hire or refuse a work offer and attempt to establish a base. An ending at Gutfish Ford allows you the opportunity to throw it in the pit, which is an entire quest. Stone Circle will send you to Visions at the Peak or establish a base, and Run and Hide will send you to establish a base. Love that. That's the end. These are not all the exact same one-for-one quests that you'll go to if you have chosen the Loot and Pillage mission. This one starts out with the text, you refused your jailer's deal, and soon enough he finds his opportunity to make an attempt on your life. You have to fight him before you begin your mission. You'll take the jailer card from the law deck, and the party must fight him without any of their starting items. If you destroy or escape the jailer, you can flee the dungeon as more fighting breaks out around you and your fellow prisoners turn on their captors. During the chaos, you may claim your starting items, but your GP is lost. Our setup here is a little bit different. We still have our placing of the clue tokens, face down, random, at these 4 locations. 2 mission cards get added to the mission deck. A Highlands encounter and a Lowlands encounter. We're going to get into the decks very shortly. And we have our flavor text here. You will set the bounty level at 2 and place the party in the Undercity dungeon. And this gives you this lovely picture of the map overlay that you're going to use, which we haven't really looked a lot at the tokens, and I don't really want to look too much more at the tokens after having punched them all out and showing you that clip. But these are the map overlays. We have a labyrinth, we have the hidden halls, we have the Hand of Doom, which is not an overlay, or it may be, but it's I don't know what it's used for yet. I don't want to know at this time. We have the flooded caves. Some of these tiles are double-sided, so we have the crystal chamber on the reverse side of the flooded caves. And this particular one here is the Undercity dungeon, and they're saying it goes off to the side of Brettelberg, so it actually just fits right here in this nook, and then that tells you what it's adjacent to, and the adjacency to the roads and the other sections around it is very important because that's part of the travel of the game. And yeah, it's got its own danger level here attached right on this tile. And of course that can be overlaid with the corresponding token if it needs to go up or down. Okay, so all of that is really interesting and it makes me want to adventure because it's a promise of adventure. Man, that is so cool. It's such a collection of cool ideas. We don't have a lot left to go over in this video. We have some cards. We have the danger cards. So we'll call this the danger deck. We have the doom deck, and we have a few cards in the triumph deck. So spoiler alert, we're going to be looking at some of the cards in each of these decks. We'll look at many of the danger cards though, just because I want to see what they are, what they look like. Stone Circle 1. Horrid swamp creatures raid and vandalize the sacred megaliths at Stone Circle. Gotcha. And we have counters, tracks. Don't know yet what they mean. Number of players, I suppose that's what that means. Yeah, that's on every card. We have a reshuffle, the danger deck, the blasted heath. I'm guessing the danger deck's constant number of players track at the bottom makes sure that this scales in difficulty depending on how many players are playing, which means if you are playing based on this existing at all, you are not quadruple handing the adventurers. That still doesn't sound right. It's fitting for the video, maybe, but you could literally play with just one hero. I say hero, that's completely, it's an outlaw, kind of the opposite of a hero. So, whoops. The Witchwood, the Lodge Hunt, the Tunnel of Terror, more like Tunnel of Love, Witch Hill, the Graveyard, your current space. You've attracted the attention of an unmistakable malignant force in your current space. I like that a lot. That's the Wandering Monster card, basically. Our Doom deck is different anatomy, actually. Vortex of the Deep, Doom, Wetlands, any wetland space. Sorry, the Hand of Doom conjures a raging whirlpool which ushers forth an immense and terrible gnashing worm from its depths. Place a Void Gate in the Hand of Doom space. Place the Mega Worm counter in the Hand of Doom space. Retrieve its card from the Epic Monster deck or discards. These all say Doom. They're all Doom. So this is most likely cards that are drawn because of the presence of the Hand of Doom on the board, which I believe happens once you increase so far along a Doom counter. It might be a timed-based thing as well. Goblin Fortress, Last Chance, Skull Bridge. This is the Goblin Blitzkrieg. Do they do the Blitzkrieg bop? Goblins in the Badlands have Berserk and lose Dimwit. I would say those are traits. Those are combat states, meaning they have Dimwit by default if they are instructed to lose it. Finally, we have the Triumph cards. Necromantic Acolyte, Triumph, Necrocoven. In service of the Necrocoven, you have bound the spirit of the Dread Saint with ancient black magic. You are a true agent of the Necromancer. Do not place blue Doom counters on the Doom track. Yeah, we have some permanent buffs here, it looks like, that you can enjoy should you achieve these achievements. I really appreciate the divots in the board that allow you to take cards out of the card wells. I always think that this is a good addition, so I have to give credit where credit's due. Oh, we have more Triumph cards, and we have some weakness cards, and we have some cards that appear to be double-sided. Warding, Voidwalker, Transmute. I guess these are abilities. They have requirements on them. They have basically a summary and the mechanical description of what they mean. Provoke, Alchemy. Yeah, these are skill cards, they say. Skill, 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 skill. The other side says mastery, mastery, mastery. Is it the same thing? Yeah, Alchemy skill, Alchemy mastery. Alchemy skill, 8 XP. Does this mean when you get 8 XP you can flip this card? I think so. Then your requirements are just, or maybe it's the other way around. See if we can figure it out without consulting the manual, the rule book. Discard an ally or item and make a magic test. If you pass, you gain G equal to that card's cost. That's transmutations. That's selling something without even having to be at a shop. Discard an item and make a magic test. If you pass, okay. Discard an ally or item. Ally or item versus item. So it's transmute. This starts off with what you have here, and this must be the amount of experience before you flip it. That's cool. That's a cool way of doing that. I like that. I like the Triumph cards very much. We can go on now to the remaining 3 decks, and this will be the rest of this particular video. Whoops, I left a danger card. It's fine, it's fine. I'll clean it up later. We have the loot deck. I gotta show you guys the loot. We actually have more than just 3 decks. We have 3 piles. Within these piles are an extremely large number of decks, which I appreciate. I'm fine with that. I really like the way that a game like Iron Helm, not to bring up Grey Gnome Games again, the aesthetic just puts me in this mindset, this really classy dungeon crawl type of mindset. And Iron Helm has got a box that allows you to keep all of your cards stood up in it and just take out separators and put them in between the decks. So whenever you need to draw from a deck, you simply pull one out of the upright cards, going straight to that divider and pulling the card out. It saves so much room, and I wish there was a refined, easy way for all games to do it that way, because even if you have the option, if you don't have to do it, I think it's a great option to have, especially if you are playing a game that is card heavy and just has a ton of cards. Like this game. There's a lot of cards in this game. There's nothing wrong with that. It's totally fine. It is perfectly fine. And it just occurred to me that there is out there a specific tray, and I really like the tray. I just kind of bitched a little bit about not wanting to have to 3D print a solution. It's not my job to fix the box's storage solutions or the box design, but I found some boxes at Dollar Tree that are like for crayons. So they should be the perfect size for cards like this. And I think they're only thick enough to hold 2 rows of crayons, which means they should be thick enough to hold a lot of these specific decks. So my thought process is, with as much room as is in the box, I should be able to use the Cardwells section as a place to store all the tokens, and I can store all the tokens in there and some of the tokens in here, right? And then all of the real estate that is left over on top from not having the bags of tokens taking up any space, I should be able to throw those crayon holders into the top. I think I'm going to try that out. Next time I'm out and about, I'll grab one of those, bring it home, see if it fits in the box, and if it does, I'll buy as many as can fit in the box. And then that will be my storage solution. That really isn't asking a whole lot of me. All right, as you have been able to suss out, we have different regions like the wetlands, and we have 2 decks per region. So the wetlands encounter, the wetlands monster, the lowlands monster and encounter, the loot and epic monster, sign of power and law decks, the badlands monster and encounter, and the highlands monster and encounter. So I don't want to spend too much time going through the different regions and their encounters, but I'll show you a highlands encounter, and this gives you a quest right on the card, gives you a test that you have to do. More of an encounter. It's not a quest. It's a piece of what would be a quest. And then your badlands card. These are just going to be thematic to that region is all. That's the difference there. So there's going to be some regions that are probably more hostile to certain classes or character types, or some regions that are more friendly towards them. And that's why you've got them separated into different decks versus one deck to rule them all. And I like things being that way. I think that is a great option for the immersion in the design. Very, very good. I like that. You'll always be able to tell what region you're in because of this genius color palette scheme. I don't even have to refer to anything to know that this section of the board is the Badlands. But if I look around enough, I'll probably find, unless I'm wrong. So I'm thinking Highlands, Badlands, Wetlands, and Lowlands, right? Easy enough. Those are the sections of the board split into fourths. Easy enough. And the color palette is the exact same. That is a lot of where the color design choices have come into play. And I think having that visual cue is genius. In my heart of hearts, I wonder if it's colorblind friendly, but I don't know if it's completely necessary to be so, because I think that there are other indicators that would let you know exactly what section of the board you're on. You can't just rely on purely the quadrant, because there are some places that bleed over onto the other quadrants, like the Witchwood here, but there are environmental clues and some environmental storytelling with like how the rivers and roads and stuff are positioned. But it also could be that somebody who's colorblind could look at these and just see enough of a difference to know exactly which combinations of color go to which one. And I know that there's different versions of color blindness. Why did I say versions? We're going to look at some of the loot. We have the sacrificial dagger, weighted pistol, Flagon of Ale, Saint's Finger, Caltrops. Everything's got a cost, a sort of class and a descriptor. Items that are relics, items that are blades, items that are one-handed blades specifically. You don't have a limit on the items you can carry, but you do have a limit on the heavy items that you can, believe you can only carry 2 heavy items. This, for example, with the anvil icon is a heavy item. It's a studded vest. It gives you +1 arm. This item is not heavy if your strength is 8 or more. Love that. Fungal Parasite. This is a loot card. This is one of the cards that is supposed to go into the mission deck that you build depending on the mission that you select. Executioner's Axe, Spirit Guide, Flash Bomb, all of this stuff. I can't believe this artist went through and illustrated every single one of these, and did so at a time when AI was just not available as a practical option to generate a bunch of slop, so you didn't have to put any work into the art. I truly appreciate that. This game is worth, I can tell you now, in my honest opinion, every penny of its MSRP just based on style alone. But yeah, this does very strongly remind me of the same art style that is used by Green Gnome Games and Axebane, and I happen to be very, very partial to that art style, so I am kind of biased. I will put that out there. Our law cards give us a special set of enemies: the Jailer, the Plague Finder, Bounty Hunter, characters that I think are probably more combined. The Smelling Dwarf, not the Smelling Dwarf, attributed to what we could construe to be bosses, maybe, in this game. The Sin Finder, the Plague Conscript. I'm interested to know, what is the Sign of Power? Sign of Mordus, Sign of Koth, the Elder Sign, Sign of Keish. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Every adventure in the Hand of Doom space becomes fatigued and demoralized. If you were already fatigued or demoralized, you take D3 piercing damage. This game doesn't come with a D3, but it does explain that if it does say D3, you cut your dice in half, and it does have rules for rounding up or down. Don't literally cut your dice in half unless you're a true maverick. I mean, cut the result in half. Finally, we have our monsters in each of the regions. They're pretty straightforward. They give us, again, keywords to associate. Filth, Reptilian. This is a Naga. She has Venom. She has Up in Perception and 4 attack, 1 arm and 6 heart. This has Pursue and Slime, 5 heart, no arm, Up in Agility and 4 attack. The Scroglin Hunter, Fish, Fishoid, Fish, Filth, Construct, Weird. You're going to see a lot more fish in the wetlands, evidently, than you will in, say, the lowlands. In the lowlands, you will see a lot more of the vermin and undead, it seems. Yeah, the feral scratcher. There's the sex dwarf. There's the sex dwarf. And I think the sex dwarf will end this episode. Was there anything you think I should have gone over a little bit more? Would you like to see single player gameplay videos? Would you like to play this game with me? I don't really have any way for you to do that. I just wanted to know if you wanted to play with me. Ultimately, I want to get this in front of more people. I don't think that there are very many universes out there in the multiverse where you're not already subscribed to a channel like Always Bored, Never Boring, or The Dungeon Dive. I would say that you probably have a preference when it comes to who you watch to get different board game takes and first impressions and the like. But I'm hoping with my style of unboxing and presentation that I was able to get a couple of people who have been on the fence about this particular game to consider getting into it. You'll have to let me know if I was successful. I really do want to show the kind people at Goblinko that their efforts and faith in me in sending me the game were not wasted. So please comment down below and tell them your thoughts about this video also. In fact, I think that's my true ask here. And I will see you all in the next exciting adventure. I do think that this is absolutely a keeper. It is something that I'm going to play several rounds of before I get into the expansions, I think. But if I can get my hands on the expansions, then those are things that I will definitely share with you as well. And we'll talk a little bit about what those expansions bring to the game. As far as the role-playing game goes, that's something I'd like to look at separately, and it will be linked in the description below, or at least the current status as of the time of this video of its crowdfund, as far as it's linked and or shared. And, of course, the Goblinko shop. It's just 2 people. For near as I can tell, just 2 people run this whole thing, so they're both extremely talented, and this is evident and demonstrable. One more big thank you to Goblinko Games, and Sean over there, thank you so much for your kind contribution to my work and my play, and I will see you all again in the next weird adventure. Until then, brave heroes and outlaws alike, farewell for now. Da, 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 da.